living in the moment, and the moment is the future.
With Pam and John. This SPEDTalk.
Welcome to SPEDTalk with Pam
and John,
also known as The Calm.
Before the Storm.
Our purpose is to elevate the conversation and amplify special education resources.
And our why is about making the impossible possible.
Hi, David. You going to a different campus?
We're opening up a brand new campus, yes. So I'm going to be the head coach here at the new middle school here in Northside, Joe Strauss III.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, I'm Pam Humphrey. I'm the other part of Pam and John and SPEDTalk. And
Okay.
What SPEDTalk is, it's really just a podcast that just really started about elevating special education in the state of Texas, and been seeking out people doing fantastic things to make the lives of our young students more positive. And we happened to see your video because we also won the Barbara Jordan Media Award for the podcast, and we're like, whoa, we got to talk to this guy.
Oh, no, it was, I call it G. Ivory's video, because that young man, he's a great kid, and he stayed at the campus I was at. I believe he did. He was supposed to come here, but he's been a 6th and 7th grader there for the last 2 years, and now his last year in middle school, I think he wanted to stay where most of his friends were staying, so he's opted to stay over there, which is a good thing, you know, for that program and that group of kids and everything, because he's a heck of an athlete. For us, it's a little scary knowing that we're going to have to go against him.
Well, I saw the video. I saw the one that was posted for the Barbara Jordan Media Award, but I also saw the one that Northside produced itself with his mother included on that video. So,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say he comes from a good family. His parents are real supportive, and you know, his dad was at most of the practices that I could see, you know, and mom works in our district, and everybody loves her over at her school, and so she's great with our kids.
And so G. Ivory, his mom is also deaf. So on the videotape that I was looking at, it was her speaking and saying, and also signing that she decided to step out of the conversation and allow David and G. Ivory to figure out a way how to communicate this. Because she's like, I didn't want to touch, step in on anybody's toes, but figured they will have to find a way to communicate if he wants to play football.
Yeah, and he did.
Okay.
He did. He made it work, and his natural athleticism makes it easy for him to join any group. The fun part is when you're teaching a new sport like football. Football has its own language when you're on the field. When you're talking, when you're telling kids, hey, this area is called the flats on defense, and the linebacker has the flats and pass coverage, and you're saying all these things, which is very foreign to kids who can hear our voices normally and everything. And G. Ivory, I'm trying to teach him the same things, but in a concept form, because one thing that I learned is when you're hearing impaired, when you sign language, I used to think it was words, but it's a concept. It's more of you're signing concepts, and that was new to me. That was something I learned in the process of trying to help him.
Was it difficult for you to learn signs?
Well, it took practice. So the good thing is, so my wife is an administrator in our district, and I was at home and I'm talking to her, and I was telling her about this young man's potential. I said, he's one heck of an athlete. I just wish I could teach him better. I could communicate with him better, so that way he could reach the potential that he has, that I know he has. And as it turned out, when I was talking to her, saying things, she's like, well, she saw me on YouTube looking up how to sign certain words. That was my first go-to, and that's what sparked the conversation. She was like, well, what are you doing that for? And I told her, and she says, well, I have a American Sign Language teacher on my campus. She's like, why don't you tell me what you're trying to tell him and write it down, and I'll videotape her signing them, and then you can practice. And that's how it all started. And that's what I did. And I communicated back and forth with her for a few weeks. Every time I learned, okay, I need to teach them this. So how do you say these 3 or 4 phrases? How do you say this? How do you say that? How do you, and the reason I did this is because when I'm standing on the sideline, I'm pretty loud. If you've been to a football game of mine where I'm coaching on the field, the spectators can hear me from across the field, but I knew G. Ivory couldn't. So how was I going to communicate from the sideline to G. Ivory to tell him what it was I wanted him to do? Because he had some tendencies, like he was jumping off sides on defense and things like that. So I wanted to tell him, like, hey, your guy is the quarterback. That's the guy you need to go after. And so I learned how to say, like, watch the quarterback. And I figured out how to sign that. Watch the quarterback, that's your guy, and then watch the ball. So that's how, I started real simple. And I know, and G. Ivory laughed about it, because my sign language is not great, probably. It's like as if I were trying to speak Spanish. I'm no bueno at it, I'm sure, at first. So he was real patient with me, and I could see him laugh when I was trying to sign something to him. So, but he's one of those kids where, I wanted to help him because I think he has a long runway.
Yeah, when I looked at the video and his comment about your sign was like, oh, I still have to work with him.
Yeah. And that's 100% true. And if I was going to continue to be able to coach G. Ivory, that would be something that I would work towards for sure. It would be like any of our coaches that would do that. So if I had a young man that was Spanish speaking only, I'm sure any one of us coaches would learn how to say certain phrases in Spanish to help them.
So how did G. Ivory interact with the other players? Did any of the other players learn sign to assist him, or was just the coaching staff?
I think most players, they interact and they have nonverbal communication anyway, so they start. But one thing that I noticed that some of his fellow athletes, his teammates, learned is that when they want to talk with him, if he didn't have his hearing device on, they would look at him and make sure that he could see their lips, and they would talk to him. They would physically go up to him and turn his shoulders, get him to face them, and then they would say something. And a lot of the other stuff was nonverbals, like high fives, pat on the back, just an attaboy type things. But yeah, I didn't see anybody learning to sign. I think, I'm to be honest, like I didn't want to embarrass G. Ivory and call attention, because I think he wants to just go out there and just be a football player, and that was my goal for him.
Definitely so. All sports have a language of their own.
Yeah.
So to make that adjustment from football to basketball and track. So yeah, it would definitely require learning those concepts.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hey, Monica, Amy, you want to ask questions?
I'm curious. So, and hi, David. I'm Monica Quesada. I'm one of the liaisons, and I just recently joined this amazing team, and have gotten to meet some amazing people like you across the state. So really excited for that. But I'm just curious. So when you say you had to, translate this word into a concept, and then that concept had to become this language, this body language, how long did that process take? And you were going to tell him, look down, and I don't even know what these concepts are. I'm not a good football person, but, catch the ball, or like, how long was that process for you to learn that concept and then share it with him?
So I'll be honest, I started real simple because I wanted him. So like when I was telling him to watch the QB, I would tell him, and I think I got that wrong now because I haven't signed. So I was trying to tell him it's Q. I was telling him to watch the QB, and then I would kind of go like this just to tell him, if he's passing, you're trying to get to him. And then when I was able to look at him face to face and look at him in the eye, and he could see my lips, I could tell him, hey, you're responsible for the quarterback. And if you see pass, I want you to go. And I would say, tackle. I learned how to say tackle the quarterback, and I try to get that concept into, so that way he understood that's my guy. I have to contain the quarterback, and trying to teach like we in defense, when we coach defense, there's gaps. There's the A gap, the B gap, the C gap. And he was lining up in the wrong gap. So I would say, you're in C gap. And I would tell him the sign for C gap. And I would explain, this is your area.
Oh, it sounds like you made it a short learning curve. Very good, coach.
No,
He's like today.
I like I said, I kept it simple for myself, just because I was trying to communicate with him from the sideline and wanted to make sure he was doing the right things for the type of defense that we're doing and even the type of offense that we're doing.
That's great. The passion was there on both sides, so that learning happened. That's great.
So did he play both offense and defense, or just defense?
So he played both. And what the amazing part was, is we had been trying to teach him. So our plays, the way we run our offense is even numbers go to the right, odd numbers go to the left. So for that one, I didn't have to use sign. I actually wrote on his hand. I just told him, I looked at him and told him what it meant. And I had a marker and I said, okay, if you hear an even number, you go to this way. If you hear an odd number. So, but again, teaching the concept of creating a pocket for the quarterback to hand you the ball and things like that. Our head coach at the time, he did a great job working with him and getting him to, we focused on little successes. So we taught him one play going one direction and he did well. And then by the last game, he had that one play down to where when we ran the ball for, I don't know, we were already winning the game, but we had an opportunity to score again. So our head coach put him in, told him to run his play, the one that we had been teaching him, and he went out there and scored. So that was, I'm sure his parents were thrilled to see it.
That's pretty awesome.
Hi, David. I'm Amy Duggan. I'm also a liaison here in Amarillo, Texas, in Region 16. But I love your story. It's a fantastic story. One question I have is, you breaking down this into the simplicity of those steps and really having to think through the foundations of the plays and to help the student, did it change the way you coached other students? Did it help you break that down and make that more concrete for everybody?
Absolutely. And the good thing about coaching is a lot of us coaches, when we see something isn't working for us, we take some steps back and try to find an easier way to get to the solution that we're looking to get to. We try to break it down as, okay, let's find some success in certain parts. And then once we find success, once we succeed in it, then we build upon that. So yeah, we absolutely do that. When I'm working with other students, it's like, okay, if this kid's not understanding the concept of a pulling guard and he's not taking the right steps, okay, let me step back and simplify this and make sure. And it's amazing. And I found this out a long time ago. I was coaching one season and I got hurt my back, and I couldn't demonstrate the way I used to. And when you can't demonstrate as a coach, when you become, and I hate to say the word old, but when you become older and you can't do the things that you did when you were in your 20s, like demonstrate a layup, a full speed layup, or demonstrate a offensive lineman coming out of their stance and hitting a pad and things like that. When that becomes difficult, you're challenged as a coach, because now you have to learn how to vocalize your coaching. And it makes you think about what you're about to say to the kids. And I feel like it makes you a better coach, because now you have to find a way to teach the kids because most kids are visual learners, I feel like. And if you can't show them, you have to be creative in finding different ways to show them.
So since you moved to another middle school, will the coaches that
Ivory.
It's such a unique name. I've never heard it. And I've heard different names.
So it's like Ivory. It's like Ivory with a G on the front of it.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought, okay, that's a pretty cool name. So, with the coaches continue, with the sign with him, since you won't be at that campus anymore?
I would think the coaches, his coaches he has now, are going to continue to do whatever it takes to help that young man. Yes, I would think whatever he finds. Because there are so many things out there, and he even has a device that he wears, and a coach can wear a necklace that has a device to communicate. So that's kind of nice too. That's like having your own, like being in the NFL when they have the mic system set up. That's really neat. So, you know, that's actually an advantage if you can talk to somebody while they're out on the field without screaming it across the field so everyone else can hear you. But I think being that this was his first year playing football with his helmet and everything, I don't know if he felt comfortable wearing the device. He didn't wear it a lot when he was playing, so he might choose to wear it this year if it makes it easier for him to communicate with the coaches, you know, communicate with his fellow teammates, and just, you know, be a part of the group and not be treated any different. And that was our goal, is to not treat him any differently. We know what he's capable of, and we just want to make sure he gets to where he can be really successful. And I think that's a high opportunity. It's a high percentage of opportunity for him. He's very athletic.
He has a cochlear implant. Is his goal to just continue playing middle school to high school sports?
He is very interested in sports. Very interested in sports. I'm not sure if he's going to go, because football, I think he loves football more than anything else that I've seen. I know he loved football a lot, but basketball, like when I watched him play basketball, in 7th grade, it's not very common when you see a young man be able to get up and touch rim at that age. And he could do it. He can do it. And he's not taller than I am. I mean, I'm 5'11". He was probably 5'8", 5'9" when he played last year. I'm sure he's grown a little bit. So, but he's a very athletic young man.
He's got that bounce.
Yeah, he does. He definitely has the legs, because one of the reasons why we actually put him on offense is because one day on defense, we watched him as a defensive end run down from the backside, run down and chase down our fast running back that we had. And when we saw him chase down our running back, we were like, holy cow, if he can outrun our running back, then maybe we should give him the ball and let him run. And that's where we realized how fast he was. But again, learning how to do each position, that's going to be, you know, he just has to learn how to play and get that going, and he's going to be great.
Kind of learn how to communicate.
Okay, so here's my $1 million question. When you, with the hearing impairment, that want to play football, your initial gut reaction?
Well, I have the advantage. So he was I had him as a 6th grader in PE. So I seen him already in PE, and I knew he could play, because we would go out on certain days and have what's called a flex day, where the kids get to pick their activity. And I watched him get up and catch footballs and move on the field and do his thing. And I was like, this kid is an absolute animal. And he was, and I saw it. And so I knew he, you know, I could see how athletic he was. But when I was teaching PE, the funny thing was, in PE, everything that we did, one of the cool things that I noticed with the kids is, even if he didn't understand my directions directly, he could just look next to him, and the kid next to him his buddy would come over and show him exactly what he needed to do. And I think it actually makes me feel good that there are kids that, you know, without drawing attention, without being obvious or anything, they just step up and help their friend. And that gives me hope that there's still good going on, because sometimes, I mean, this is middle school. I'm not going to lie. In my experience, I've seen two different sides of it. There's kids that are really, really great and they're awesome. And then there's the other side of it where kids can be really mean, and it's not always a great thing. But thankfully at our school, and I think in our district, I think we would see it. I can't speak of anywhere else, but for the most part, most of the kids that we have are great, and they helped out their buddy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I taught middle school, and you're right. It can go both ways. And when the kids are nice to each other and really care about each other, that's one thing I really enjoyed about teaching middle school, was that you had those students that are very conscientious and very caring, and didn't want anyone to be mistreated, and always went out of their way to ensure if someone need help, you know, they were going to be there to help them. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to add, I also taught middle school, and I think they're very insecure but very moldable at that age. So you know, when they have bad behaviors, you know, when we see that side of the middle schoolers, an experience like this can really, I think, change them and how they view not only someone who might have a disability, but just someone who might have a difference, you know, in life, because, you know, we all have uniquenesses. So I think it's great that this started in middle school, you know, because this group will follow him and they'll know him in his city, which is great.
I agree. I can tell you, speaking of, like what you just said, the differences. Like I've seen big kids who are very uncoordinated get included with the other kids who are very coordinated for their age, because maybe their body has, you know, their brain has caught up to their body, whereas the big kid had a 6-inch growth spurt and he's tripping over his feet and he's looks clumsy and all this. And then I've also seen the flip side of that, where I've got giants, you know, 6 foot 7th graders that are including the 4 foot 7th grader who's, you know, all of 50 pounds in their game and stuff like that. So I agree. I mean, that, like I said, that makes me feel good that when I see kids do stuff like that, it makes me feel good that they're on the right track.
So David, how many years have you been a coach, been a teacher?
Since 2007. So, and then that's how long I've been a coach. Teaching. So I had a unique job before all this. I worked for SeaWorld San Antonio, the education camp manager out there.
Mm-hmm.
So basically I worked in the animal training and education department. So what we would do is I would have kids come and live at SeaWorld, and we would take them from animal habitat to habitat and teach them about that animal for that day. We get up at 5 something in the morning, you know, feed the kids, and then by 6 we're at the killer whale stadium and we're showing them how we get all the killer whale food buckets together for their morning feed. And we do all that and, you know, show them all the stuff that we do to take care of the animals till I was done with college. Was about to sign a contract, and SeaWorld wanted me to stay there, and they beat the offer that district was offering me. So I stayed there and did that. So when my wife would call me at work, said I'm playing baseball with sea lions or getting in the water and swimming with penguins. So it was fun.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, John.
Yeah.
I told David you've been wanting to talk with him. So
Yeah, Dave, man, I am super
Can you hear
excited.
me?
Sorry I'm late to the party. You know, I was trying to, I didn't mean to multitask. I got pulled in a direction I couldn't get pulled off of. And so, but man, I've been listening in kind of on the backside to your story and kind of the background and stuff. And we were just so impressed when, you know, we got your story, and we're just excited for you to be on with us today.
I stepped outside of my office just where I think I get better reception.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping. So when all this was going on, you know, I originally, I think it got brought to light by my special education coordinator, because I went to her to just ask her, hey, you know, is it okay if I sign to Givery? Does he know sign language? Because I'm having trouble communicating on the sideline to him, and I want to make sure that it's okay. And she said, absolutely, go for it. And that's when I started the whole trying to learn everything. And the coaches, you know, we all took a different approach to try to get, but because I was his direct position coach, that was my goal, was to work with him and try to get him where he could be the most successful.
Yeah, you know, communication, you know, especially like on the football field from the sideline, you know, but even relating that to in the classroom, you know, and making the assumption that, hey, this kid, if I communicate with him effectively, will be able to do what I ask him to do, right? Having those positive assumptions that, like, hey,
absolutely,
it's just a communication thing. How do we break through, you know? And I mean, even hearing you talk about your experiences at SeaWorld and working with kids and exposing them to that, you know, I suspect you brought some insights from working in that environment and, you know, working, you know, behavior, right? I mean, human behavior, animal behavior, communication. I suspect you were able to make some connections there and have some insights into, look, Like, this kid can do what he needs to do. I just got to be able to figure out how to communicate with him effectively at his level, on his terms, so that he can go perform.
Absolutely. Yeah. And SeaWorld definitely taught me a lot of stuff about behavior modification, because there was a really, really cool guy over at SeaWorld. He was the head of the animal training department. He used to say, it's not like you can spank a 5,000-pound killer whale and they don't do what you ask them to do. So he said, it's everything that they do, they don't, I mean, SeaWorld's great with the animals. There's never a punishment phase.
It's positive.
It's positive. It's exactly. It's either we're going to have a lot of fun if you do these things, or maybe it won't be as fun. They never use things like food or anything like that as a motivator. And the good thing is like, as a coach, the thing that we try to do is build those positive relationships. But a lot of the times, when coaches, some of the ways that we get kids to want to play is those positive opportunities that they have, like the extra playing time, the positions that they play, and things like that. I mean, I always tell kids here, yes, coaches have favorites. Our favorites are the kids that are coachable and show up with the right attitude and give the right effort. Those are our favorite kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, if for whatever reason you feel like you're not one of our favorites, you just have to change your situation, change something. Maybe your attitude, you're coming to the practice with the wrong attitude or something.
Man, you're touching on big things though, and that is that idea of being open to learning, having a good attitude, putting forth effort, and I think so much goes into these assumptions we have, sometimes about kids, sometimes about coaches, sometimes about adults, about teachers. And if we're not careful, those assumptions can set us up for failure, or we can work those assumptions to set everyone around us up for success. And, I just hear examples you're sharing of how, going positive, I'm trying to make things fun, trying to inspire kids to want to put forth effort and do those things. All of those things are that what makes kids want to be coachable and want to connect.
When you work with guys that role model those type of things, it makes it really fun. I work with one of the guys. I was fortunate enough to steal a guy that I have here at my new middle school, who he's probably one of the funniest guys I've ever met in my life. And he makes this job a lot of fun. He does. And he's great for kid and be positive. And he looks for the good things in kids. Even when some of us are like, I'm not sure that kid needs to, he wasn't a great kid as a sixth grader. He wasn't this, he wasn't that. He's like, yeah, but he's grown up. Let's give him a chance and things like that. So I think all of us role modeling what we expect with our kids, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's less about telling me what you don't want and more about telling me what you do want,
Exactly.
I'm a strong believer in behavior. Amy and I were having a conversation the other day about our backgrounds in behavior, me working in behavior classrooms and things like that, out in LEAs, kind of in my area years ago, and how you always find what you look for. Like if I want to find kids misbehaving, if that's what I'm looking for, I can find it. But if I want to find setting the example, towing the line, going the extra mile, I mean, all you got to do is open your eyes and look for that. And the more you look for that, the more you find that. And so, yeah, man, I mean, you're talking my language, Dave, for sure.
And we're all human. We have all come to work in a bad mood, had a bad day, spilled our coffee, whatever. So the only thing is and one of the cool things that our district does is they do a lot of great trainings. And I recently was able to participate in mindfulness training. And some of the mindfulness techniques is some of the things that even one of the pastor at the church I attend, Max Lucado, I'm sure you've probably heard of him. He's very popular.
Right.
So he always, talks about grace and kill him with kindness and that kind of thing. And that's one of the things that mindfulness does, is like, even when you're having a bad day, instead of getting on a kid for something that they've done 1,000 times, just try to find one positive thing and maybe that'll turn it around. So
Yeah, words of wisdom. Totally.
Mhm.
You know, it's so easy. You know, I think all of us, I tend to say, you know, we all see, our eyes look outward, not inward. And so it's so easy to look outward and react versus to stop in the moment, look inward and proact in that moment and say, hey, okay, this is what someone is showing me, but what's beneath the surface? Let me take a moment and see if I can't help uncover something other than what this child is showing me.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think, one thing, Dave, I like the fact that you realized with Jarvik that you needed to communicate with him, that you know, no one told you, there wasn't a special ed person coming to you and say, hey, this kid has hearing impairment. These are the things you need to do to communicate.
right.
You went home, you talked to your wife and said, hey, I got this kid has some talent and I need to learn how to communicate. And then she helped you, set you up with the ASL teacher. And that's the beauty of mindfulness, is that you saw what what he needed, and you also realized you had to take the step to make some things
Absolutely.
happen for him. And that's truly a great example of mindfulness, is that you didn't wait. You didn't say, oh, that's his problem, he won't play football, then he's going to have to pay attention to me and he's going to have to learn blah, 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 blah,
No, I agree, Pam. I think you're spot on. I mean, I think it's just a great example of accommodating the person where they're at, seeing the potential over the deficit. Hey, this kid can't hear, but what can this kid do? Man, this kid can knock the heck out of kids across that line. This kid can run and catch that ball. This kid can, all the things we want him to do on a football field. Now, how do we get around? How do we accommodate for his abilities? I mean, strengths and weaknesses. And I think it's interesting because I think, I just think you're just an exceptional educator. Not just a coach, but an educator. You're a person that seems like, and from the stories and all on Twitter, reading about it and watching the promos of the story, it's just like you just kind of look out and say, okay, what does this kid need? What does this kid need? Who does this kid need me to be today so that I can help them? And that's just setting an example, and that's just being an excellent educator, So I don't know.
Thank you.
And
I think one of the things I should say is it also helps that, when you're around good people and you have good people that work with you, basically we all take the philosophy that we're going to coach every kid like they're our own kid. And in some instances, like this year, my son did play on the team. My son was on the team with G Ivory. So I like I said, we all coach every kid like they're our own, and that's how we do it.
How it should be done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't keep you on much longer. We just appreciate your time. John, is there anything else?
Well, I think Amy summed it up, and she said that's how it should be done. Dave, you hit on something that I think exemplifies, what it means to be an educator, and it's you educate every child as you would your own. And
Yes, sir.
that is something my wife taught me. She's not an educator, but she is in her field. She's a nurse by trade, and she's the director of an ICU, and she manages her ICU with that same mentality. It's that you treat every patient as though they're your family member, because they're someone's family member and they're deserving of that type of care. And so
Absolutely.
you are just, you hit the nail right on the head. And we are just blessed to have you come join us on SPEDTalk and get to elevate kind of this story. It's already bigger than you and everyone, just because I think positivity is contagious,
Yes, sir.
And so we're just thankful that you took the time to come on with us and share kind of some of those insights and some of that wisdom that you've collected on your journey.
Well, I appreciate the invite. Like I said, I'm just glad all of us coaches, we just want to do whatever we can to help our kids. And sometimes, it takes a little more effort. Some years it's easier when you've got a group of kids that are like, big like Cam Newton and athletic like Christian McCaffrey and as smart as Patrick Mahomes. It's nice when you have a whole bunch of those kids coming in, but sometimes you want what we always say as coaches, we're only as good as our weakest link, and we want to make sure our weakest link is stronger than anybody else. So stronger than anybody's, better kid. So that's how we coach our kids. We want to make sure we build on their strengths, and so that way they're no longer considered a weakness.
All right. Well, Dave, thank you for being on SPEDTalk. And
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
Oh, sure. Have a good school year. And
Thank you. Thank you. It was nice meeting all.
John, tell everyone how they can continue to elevate the conversation about special education in Texas.
You got it, Pam. They can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at SPEDTalk 2020. Because in these disconnected times, connecting with others has never been so important. Now more than ever, it takes courage to create culture and kindness to keep us connected.
If you enjoyed this episode of Sped Talk, be sure to share it with a friend, because information should always flow through us, not to us. We couldn't do this without you, our listeners, and we need your help sharing the amazing transformation occurring in special education. Together, we can change the trajectory of learning opportunities in Texas for students with disabilities. If you have ideas, information, or resources that you think we should share on an upcoming episode of Sped Talk, let us know at Sped Talk 2020 on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And be sure to like our page while you're there. Oh yeah, and if you get a chance, please consider giving us a positive review on the podcast platform that you listen to Sped Talk.
Elevate the conversation
Living in the moment, and the moment is the future.
with